So today we're going to go over the 5 Shu category points. As we know, the 5 Shu category points are Jingwell, Ying Spring, Shu Stream, Jing River, and Hesi. We're going to first go over what each of the category points actually addresses, what symptoms. So for Jingwell, it addresses mania, hysteria, loss of consciousness. The way I recall the symptoms that the Jingwell point actually addresses, I think of it as what element does it um, associate itself well with. So for me, the Jingwell associates with the wood element because the wood is when life starts, right? It's when things spring up. And so for that purpose, when it's overly done, it's mania and hysteria. It's too much, right? Too much liveliness and springiness. When it comes to loss of consciousness, is when you actually have the Jing Well point pricked, you feel a sense of sensation where it's like it wakes you up. So it actually addresses like loss of consciousness. You can think of it that way. The Ying Spring, when I think of the Ying Spring, I think of the hot springs. And that's why it addresses the heat and fever or in association with the fire element. The Shu Stream addresses joint pain, arthritis, B syndrome, and damp. When I think of the word damp, I always remember that has something to do with the earth element. Okay, so I always recall that Shu Stream points are going to address earth associated symptoms such as these. Then we have Jing River. If you look at the symptoms, respiratory illnesses, voice loss, asthma, automatically associated with the lungs. And that's like the metal element for the Jing River. And then the Hasi, I recall it as, okay, this is going to address something of the water element. And it's going to be a very powerful force. The reason is because if you think of counterflow, when it says it addresses that, the first thing I think of is, for example, everything that we eat, it goes down. But when there's a counterflow, it goes up. So it addresses something like this. It's a very powerful force, so it helps it change that direction, okay, of that flow. Now, everyone knows that the Jing Well, the points start for each of the channels somewhere around the toes or the fingers. That's what this is for. And it follows a chronological order. Okay, but when it comes to the Jing River and the Hesi, it does not follow the order, so it stops there. A fine example would be, for example, the lungs. The lungs, as we know, starts at the chest, ends at the fingers. We know there's 11 points. Being that the lung starts at the chest, lung 1 cannot be the Jing Well because we're talking about the toes and the fingers. So since it ends at the fingers, the lung channel, we know that the Jing Well would be lung 11, follows the order, so it's lung 10, lung 9. Now we have to figure out what the Jing River and Hesi is. A very easy way to recall this is by remembering the channel. We know that the lung channel for the Jing River has to be somewhere on the wrist and ankles. So for the lung, since it's the arm, it's going to be somewhere around the wrist. Now guess what? The Jing River point for the lung is lung 8. That's exactly where the lung 8 point is, around the wrist. And then we have the Hasi, has to be somewhere around the elbows and knee. This is an arm channel, right? So it's going to be the elbows. What's the only point at the elbows when it comes to lung? It's lung 5. So we know that the Jing River is going to be lung 8. Hasi is going to be lung 5. I want you to apply that for all of the channels. So you have a good visual. It's another way you can also do this. You can memorize it, where you just think of as lung is 85, heart is 43, PC is 53, LI is 511, SI is 58, Sanjiao is 610. Stomach is 4136, UB is 6040, GB is 3834, spleen is 59, kidney is 710, Liver is 48. So you can also recall it that way. Or you can also recall this system right here. Place each of the channels. For example, here is lung, large intestine, stomach, and spleen. And we learned 3 sets, right? You apply it right below here. You recall where that point actually begins and where it actually ends, and that's going to give you the Jingwell points and then at least the first 3 points. You can memorize and you should memorize to a certain degree, but if you have a good visual of where that point is by mentally going through this in your head, it's going to stay in your memory a lot longer than just memorizing empty numbers. Okay? I hope that was helpful.